boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of Marvel Studios' new revival of the 90s classic animated series, X-Men, the first two episodes of X-Men 97, which is currently available on Disney Plus for your viewing pleasure. Yes, this has been highly anticipated for moi. I have been looking forward to this for the better part of 26 years or something like that. I don't know, my math is bad, but it's been a while that I've been looking for this. I've been clamoring for a revival of X-Men, return to form, if you will. You know, between 97 and now, we've gotten some, how can I put it kindly? Well, there is no way. Some lackluster X-Men material as far as film is concerned. 20th Century Fox, God bless them. Out of the 50 X-Men movies they made, maybe 3 of them were good. And I'm, of course, exaggerating. It was 7 in total. Yeah, maybe 3 of them you can sit back and say, oh man, those were good X-Men films or good films, period. But they've been very hit or miss and a lot of misses. But what made them so devastating was the fact, if you grew up in my era and you watched X-Men the animated series, let alone read the comic books, you were left on a high. You know, you was at peak X-Men. You got to see X-Men in their natural habitat, their true form, if you will. And to go from that to what we saw in those films, we're like, ugh. And finally, once Disney purchased 20th Century Fox and we had the opportunity to see the X-Men under Marvel Studios umbrella and get treated properly. At least that was the hope. That was the prayer. And we didn't get it in film yet, even though they're slowly rolling out some X-Men, some mutants throughout the MCU. We haven't gotten a proper X-Men film under Marvel Studios. But in the meantime, until that glorious day comes, they did make a revival of probably the greatest animated series of all time, based on a comic series, I would say, in X-Men 97. And before I go any further, I just want to address the Bo DeMaio situation. Now, in case you don't know, Bo DeMaio created X-Men 97. He was the showrunner for the first 2 seasons. Yes, we're getting 2 seasons, and there's a third being in production now. So we're not done with X-Men animated series. But he was the showrunner. All of a sudden, about a week ago, right before the premiere, they had a big Hollywood premiere for the first 2 episodes, or for the first season. I don't know if they showed the whole season at the premiere or not. It doesn't matter. But right before the premiere, Bo DeMaio was fired from X-Men. He was fired. I mean, just straight up by. And this left a lot of people scratching their heads who were into it. Now, for the layman, you probably don't even know who that is. Probably didn't even care who that was. But it kind of made you scratch your head like, man, why this dude got fired now? Why did he waited to right now? And we still don't have a definitive answer. And we probably never will get a definitive answer. But it just threw me off. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to why he was let go from Disney and Marvel. But, just like I said, it's speculation. So I'm not going to harp on it. I don't know. So I'm not going to get into it. But I can say from watching these first 2 episodes that he wrote all of the episodes of the first 2 seasons. And if the rest of this season and next season goes like these first two episodes, man, he must have really messed up because this was excellent. These first two episodes once again picked up right where the series left off in 1997. Hence the name X-Men 97. But in this series, the X-Men face dangerous new challenges following the loss of their leader, Professor X. We know that was the very last episode of the animated series in 1997. Charles Xavier left. And I say left because we didn't actually see him die. He was dying, but we never actually saw him die per se. And so I'm skeptical that he will return in this show in some shape, form, or fashion, but no time soon. But we pick up right after that. And man, this look, I was anticipating, you know, kind of a reintroduction into this world for those who probably didn't watch the 92 through 97 X-Men show and try to get everybody caught up. No. Uh this show picks up right where it left off, and we was off and running. Now, with that being said, I will say, like, if someone asks you the question, do you need to watch the previous 5 seasons from the 90s to know what's going on? Yes and no. Yes and no. Yes, to get a better appreciation of it, but no, because they do a good job of kind of explaining what took place, in previous, no pun intended, previously on X-Men. And so I would say you really don't need to watch the show, but it would help, of course. It would help. But man, this was so good. So good. It didn't waste any time getting into the action, didn't waste any time getting into the story. That's what I appreciated the most out of this, because I was anticipating, like I was saying before, that we were just going to get reintroduced into these characters, and we'll have to spend episode 1 on Cyclops, episode 2 on Jean Grey, episode 3 on Storm. It was, you know what I'm saying? But no, it wasn't that. It was pretty Cyclops and Jean heavy, especially for the first two episodes that premiered today. But everybody else, you knew who they're about, you know what they're about, and you just strap in and enjoy the ride. Well written. That's what I was saying about Bo DeMaio. Him being let go was kind of upsetting, but being as though I don't know why he was let go and what he did, I really don't want to give him too much props because I'm not sure. I feel kind of guilty saying this show is so well written, this dude should get more work and blah blah blah, and he ended up being I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to say nothing because I don't want to throw out speculation. But man, this show was so well written. It was so funny when it needed to be funny. It was serious when it needed to be serious. Everything just worked. Jean Grey, we pick up Jean Grey is pregnant. In the first episode, which is called To Me, My X-Men, which I had to stop it and rewind it just to hear Cyclops say it again when he says it in this episode. But that is also the title of the episode, because it gave me chills when he said it. When they showed it in the trailer, and I got chills. And when he did it on the show, I got chills before that scene. That scene was amazing when they took on the Sentinels. And the action. But I'm gonna get to it. I'm getting ahead of myself. You can tell I'm excited. I love this show. But yes, Jean Grey is pregnant, and Cyclops and Jean are contemplating on leaving the X-Men. Since they have a family, their family is growing, and it's time to move on. It's time to move on. But you have Cyclops not wanting to go nowhere because of Xavier passing, and he feels this responsibility to pick up the mantle, as well as everybody else. Well, I say everybody else, but in particularly Wolverine, who don't want Scott there. Wolverine is still in his feelings because he's in love with Jean Grey. And now he done, uh, 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 he done witnessed Cyclops not only marry Jean Grey but get her pregnant. So he is all he's all type of mad with the dude. You know what I'm saying? But they're a family. They still have a respect and love for one another. That even though Wolverine can probably picture himself, he probably go to sleep at night dreaming about clawing Scott Summers, but it is at the end of the day, he still loves and respects him. We open up this series or this season just like we opened up in 1992, with Jubilee and her journey becoming an X-Men and whatnot. Here we get introduced to Sunspot. And it was kind of weird because Sunspot is more, at least going by the comics, he's more associated with X-Force and the New Mutants. But they're using them here, no problem. I'm not mad at it. But it was a good kind of a reminder of the old show with a unique spin to it. Uh Now, out of these two episodes that premiered, this episode, the first episode, had the most action. It was action heavy. The second one, not so much, even though it had a lot of action in it, but not as much as the first one, I don't think. Or they could be kind of balanced out. I could. It's possible I have that wrong, but it doesn't matter. The action in this episode, I enjoyed more. Let me put it that way. I enjoyed it more because when the X-Men took on the Sentinels, the way it was animated was so amazing. And the animation here throughout the show is so good. It's faithful to the original show. It still has that feel, like that hand drawn type feel, but at the same time it's updated. It's like X-Men 2.0, if you will. I love the animation style. It's beautiful. It's actually beautiful. Looks great. At points it just looked fluid. Very, very fluid. But that was an awesome action scene. And they released it online. I don't know why they did that. I don't know, maybe a week ago, a couple of days ago, they released that clip online of that scene when they took on the Sentinels. I hate when they do that. I hate when they do that because they didn't need to do it. Even though I still watched it and enjoyed it, I was like, oh man, I'm hyped for the show. But when it happened in the show, I still was invested. It was like cool, cool, because it was so much more. It not just that clip was only just that, a clip. The actual fight, the battle went longer. And so yeah, it was awesome scene. And at the end, they of course came out triumphant. But at the end of this episode, we get the zinger. We get the bang chabanga bang when Magneto revealed that Charles Xavier willed control of the school to him. And so he entrusted him to lead the X-Men. And this is like, what? To Magneto? And of course, well, that's the second episode. Going into the second episode, which was entitled Mutant Liberation Begins. This is where we see Cyclops kind of questioning himself. He's like, well, what, Charles didn't trust me? You know what I'm saying? He's like, what's going on here? I've been doing everything I could for the past year to keep Charles Xavier's legacy alive, only to find out that he gave everything to Magneto. At one point, they swore an enemy. And yeah, that's kind of a gut punch. I feel his pain on that. But this episode goes deep, and this is why I kind of compared that the first one had more action than this one, because this one I saw more of a deeper story driven episode, even though there was action and a lot of action. Um, and some repercussions to the action that took place in this episode. But so much was said throughout this episode to set up the remaining part of the season that's going to be like, man, you're hooked now. You're absolutely hooked. At least I am, because I was hooked from the moment go. Um, Magneto is legitimately, and I'm throwing up air quotes for everybody to know, he's legitimately trying to change, become an X-Men. And I don't buy it. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to trust Magneto. He always has an ulterior motive, but I'm pretty sure we'll find out later on. But as of right now, he is really trying to make a change. He's really trying to be the leader that Charles wanted him to be. Because there's nothing fake about their friendship. They really did have a deep love and respect for one another. They just went about things differently. And so the UN, they come in to arrest Magneto. They bring him to the UN for a trial for all of his past crimes and all this here. And we see that the executioner is sent in to kill Magneto. Well, not so much kill him, but take his powers. He has this depowering gun, that will kind of, well, not kind of, but strip the mutant powers away from mutants. And so he goes in to quote unquote assassinate the mutant powers of Magneto. And so one thing leads to another. Storm jumps in front of Magneto, and she is ripped of her powers. And man, you want to talk about a heartbreaking scene when she is trying to conjure up the weather and she can't, and I can't feel the rain, I can't feel the wind, the breeze is gone. I mean, oh my God, once again. And I know this is crazy, but I hate the fact that I can't give this dude his flowers, but bruh, Bolder Mayo, he killed it, man. he really killed it with this writing of this show. Man, you felt it. I felt it, and the voice actress really displayed it throughout. I felt the pain. And Magneto, instead of retaliating in a way where he wiped out the UN and the executioner, he just let him go to show that he is quote unquote making a change. And so we get back to the X Mansion. Beast is examining Storm and come to find out that yes, indeed, her powers were stripped away. So this was another heartbreaker. They had 3 scenes in here. One when she got hit with the blast. This scene here in the next scene that I'm going to talk about. But this scene here when she asks Beast, well, how long does this last? And Beast tries to give the little philosophical around the world answer, and she's like, no, how long? And he says permanent. And oh my God, Jean Grey just breaks down, and Storm has this just drained look. To set that up, and I skipped over it because I'm not trying to go through every single second of the show, but it's so good. It's so good. Her and Jean were talking earlier in the episode, and Jean was expressing how she kind of wants the baby to be normal, doesn't want him to be a mutant. They have to go through what she went through and what they're currently going through and whatnot. And Storm tells Jean, like, sometimes I wish I could be normal. Sometimes I wish I knew how it felt to be normal. And for her to experience that now it come to fruition, is like reality hits, and she's like, okay, it's like, what do I do now? Where do I go now? Do I still fit in here? And ultimately, in the next episode, not episode, but next scene, she leaves. She leaves and leaves this letter for Jean, and she reads it to the X-Men. And oh my God, Niagara Falls, man. I mean, it was like her expressing her love for the X-Men, and her reasoning for why she has to move on, and it makes perfect sense. Nobody really fights on that. They're like, well, we get it. It is. Oh man, I'm trying to I'm trying to get through it without crying. I mean, bro, you want to talk about gut wrenching? But part of the reason why she got hit with that blast is because Cyclops had to leave the UN because Jean went into labor. And so with Jean going into labor and Jean calling out to him telepathically, he leaves, and everybody tells him to go. No, just go. We got this. Just go. Go be with Jean. And so he blames himself for what happened to Storm. So they're at the hospital and the doctor doesn't want to treat a mutant and all this here. And I would touch in on all of that stuff. But she gives birth to a son. And they name the son Nathan Summers. And for those of you who don't know, Nathan Summers is indeed Cable. And so they are setting that up. But after Storm leaves, she gets on the bus, she leaves, and um the X-Men are sitting around, and all of a sudden there's a knock at the door. And they go and open the door, and Jean Grey is standing there. And it's like, wait, Jean? Morph is the one who answered the door. And you're like, Jean? And I love that they did that. It was so genius. Now, Jean Grey is standing next to Scott with the baby. But we have another Jean Grey standing outside. And it's genius that they use Morph to answer the door to throw out doubt that is Morph doing this. Because Morph is, of course, a shapeshifter. And so now everybody turns and they look at the Jean. And she has a look of shock. And it's like, wait, what is this? And before this Jean, the clone Jean or the Jean doppelganger or whatever, she looked like she's in distress, and she's like, oh, I need the X-Men, and she passes out. And that's how the episode ends. And we have to wait 7 stinking days for episode 3. Oh my God, why they didn't release them all at once? Oh man, that stinks. But this is nostalgia trip, man. This is how it was back in the 90s. This is what we had to do. Wait, week to week. Boy, I tell you. You young folks don't know how good you have it. But this is cool though, man. This is something to stew over for the next week. Awesome introduction to this revival of this series. I am fully invested. I am all in. It is better than I expected it to be so far. As I always say, when they start off a show like this, it could completely fall off the rails going forward. But as it stands right now, I am all in. X-Men 97, which is currently on Disney Plus, gets a letter grade of an A. Yeah, normally I don't grade episodes until the season is over, but these 2 episodes gets an A. I want to touch in on some of the comments that people are making about this show. And I wasn't going to, but I really I feel I have to address it because I'm sitting here like, when I was reading them, like, do y'all know who X-Men are or what they are, what they were based upon? There are a lot of folks talking about how quote unquote woke this new X-Men series is. Oh man, the new woke America and woke society has spread to X-Men and all this here. Let me tell all of you who feel that way, and all of you who are strongly against this show or these characters because they're quote unquote woke now, they've always been woke. X-Men is the most woke comic book series of all time. It is about injustice. It is about racism. It is about bigotry. It is about hatred towards people of different colors, races, religion, sexuality, all that wrapped up in one. That's what X-Men is about. And so for people to say they're not gonna watch this show because it's woke, you never watched anything affiliated with X-Men then, right? It's no way, because that's all the X-Men is. That's all it is. So get over it, people. They just don't like the people who saying that got the mirror shined on them. That's their problem. They see themselves as these bigots, as these racists, as these sexists, as these just complete idiots walking God's green earth, and they can't take it. And they taking it out on a cartoon. I hope they feel better for that. But whatever the case may be, I love it. I absolutely love it, because this is the X-Men I grew up on. This is the X-Men I remember reading about in the comics, and the legacy continues. I can't wait for episode 3 to drop on March the 27th, next Wednesday. And the title of that episode is Fire Made Flesh. And so, everybody, if you watched the first 2 episodes of X-Men 97, I would like to know, what are your feelings about it? Are you back into the world of X-Men, the animated series? Do you feel like they captured the magic from the 90s with this new revival? I would love to know your feelings. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also look up this show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, search for the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. Subscribe and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Marvel Animation's revival X-Men 97, currently on Disney Plus. Want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.